村儿啊，又来大客车来好几十辆啊，看看都排上了，看看来了这么些，看看往山上走的又得有10多辆，看看全是车，都是拉这帮隔离人员的，看看啊，全是，都是，看看啊，全是。
全出来了，看全都拉上去了，开始往外坐。今天晚上光是你这多少台车？80台车，今天晚上。
8月5日，山东省日照市山东路出现倒地死，疑病毒所致。被强拆的人民在保定市徐水区公安局门口示威，声讨黑恶势力保护伞。8月4日，金华永康西溪镇塘溪乡暴雨，村民家中进水，车辆和多处道路被淹。浙江金华永康市暴雨，街道变急流，有市民被冲走失踪。
哎，这就是雄安新区啊！
目前来说的话，路面的积水是非常深的，看到有2辆公交车都被淹到水里了。这个是目前新中大道、金穗大道向南的一个积水的一个情况。现在这个劳动路、中原路再往东这一段的话，已经是太阳城北门这儿，应该说是积水最深的一个路段了。看前面那位推着车的那个师傅，他这个水就基本上已经到腰上，寻求专业的救援队伍来进行车辆的救援。
8月3日，狂风暴雨袭击东北3省。
台风啊，真像台风一样，太吓人了，家都回不去了。
华为确定9月举行开发者大会，发布鸿蒙 2.0。网曝东风汽车集团高管因用劣质钢材造军用车被捕。WHO 为中共站台，所谓到武汉寻找病毒源头，实质是想坐实病毒来源动物。 美卫生部计划访台 ，CCP 外交部抗议美台官方来往。环球网称蓬佩奥污蔑中国在美开展间谍活动。奥地利宣布拒绝中国签证，又以中立国加入灭共联盟。
小心不要伤着我们人啊！是，人眼手，把它拍下来，快点！来，往我们队，他们人眼没看，收，继续收，来，我对，在下面接往这边，理解。前面让我们队长让他说吧。后面快去了，队长，不要让开，让我别别洗，让我别别掉，让我别别，
上。
你看，老铁，你看，走过去，走炸！我俩。把人全拍上，往后面。
不要动！
Now, in China, the government is not only cracking down on Muslims, but on other religions as well as it pushes to assert communist ideology. Buddhist temples have been closed or demolished, while a campaign has been launched to destroy hundreds of statues of Buddha. The destruction of the giant Guanyin Buddha has drawn international condemnation. What do you think the Chinese government is hoping to gain from repressing this religious freedom?
Power over discourse in the community, power over what people think, what people at least are allowed to publicly think. Being a Buddhist will not get you to jail, but they do not want this Buddhist faith displayed as they would have allowed it 20 years ago.
So it leads me to the question about masks. The Wall Street Journal is reporting the FDA's effort to shore up supplies has resulted in masks coming into the country of varying quality. Secretary, some states have stopped using some of these masks because the FDA sparked confusion about which Chinese masks can be trusted. So what should we think when we've got all of these foreign masks coming in and maybe the ones from China can't be trusted?
What the FDA said was these KN95 masks, which come from China, it set up alternative regulatory pathways for them to come into the country, including if it was a reputable operator, if the product was approved in reputable countries other than China, or if there was independent data validation behind it. What we found, though, was that on inspection, some of the manufacturers were not reliable and they had not actually gotten that independent test verification. FDA quickly removed those products from the market. So I think it just shows that FDA has, under President Trump's direction, been very nimble, very adaptable to meet this unprecedented pandemic.
Could the ban have an impact on the vote this November? Kurt, the cyber guy, joins us live to react. And Kurt, we're going to bring up this poll here where we can take a look at, who exactly thinks that it's a good idea to ban TikTok. You can see Gen Z and millennials majority say no, they don't want it banned. But then Gen X and baby boomers feel differently about this. What type of impact could this have, Kurt?
Hey, Jillian, good morning to you. I'll just tell you now, log on to TikTok, the narrative of the chorus of people in that community are saying do not ban TikTok, and they're ready to retaliate against the president, almost waging their own war. So, I mean, there's some concern there, but there's also a rapidly evolving story here. First of all, they need to chill for a moment because the president apparently is now reportedly going to allow a 45-day respite to allow for a transaction for TikTok and have a better look at it. Last we checked, Microsoft is still in the bidding for that. And then late-breaking news overnight that the British government reported by Sun newspapers, is apparently going to allow ByteDance, the owner of TikTok, to move its headquarters to London. How that influences the president is likely not to be good, but it'll be a very interesting way to see how the White House takes. Make no mistake, the president has complete authority to ban TikTok. There are broad international laws. He could declare a national emergency related to data.
So it's not just the conventional fear that we would have that your movements are being tracked and your data being collected for nefarious uses, but also in order to suggest things that you buy or read that would actually help China.
Right, and it's done through social media, but it could also be done through e-commerce. The way this would conceivably work is that you would be influenced through your association with a corporation, with a university, not just through your consumer spending habits, but also through the relationships that tie you to some kind of ability to coerce, whether that be your employer, whether it be a university that's going to potentially accept or not accept your children. These are the connections that China has over the course of 30 years developed with the West that enables them to essentially begin to co-opt the institutions that we rely on to promote our democratic principles.
The deal with China was a great deal, but I don't feel the same way as I did. Look, we've lost 160,000 people. We're going to lose more. We would have lost millions had I just let it ride, as they expressing go. We could have lost millions at the same time. Can you imagine with all of the death, and now you multiply that number times 10, 15, or even 20, it would have been unsustainable and unacceptable. But this was caused by China, and so it certainly has had a negative impact. I had a really great relationship with President Xi. It's as good as you can have, I would suggest. But it's been such a horrible, horrible thing when you see everyone walking around now with masks and you see all the death and you see what's happened to this country, but really to the world. I mean, if you look at the world is, some countries have been just literally devastated. Look at Europe. Look at what happened to Italy and Spain and France and all of these countries. They were just devastated by this.
And also, I really want to stress it. Now, SARS-CoV-2 is the new version of the virus pathogen you never seen in human history, which can induce quite a lot of damage to humans' global health and also economic. Meanwhile, the desperately hunting for HCQ is also the first time in humans' history. This is a drug for over 20 years recommended by WHO in their safest drug list for even children. And now they try to stop people to use it. And now they try to stop all the different type of the data come from the first line of the doctors who really can reflect the result of HCQ for prevention and treatment. We see there are many countries like India, like Egypt, like Indonesia, they applied HCQ. This is cheap, this is useful. See their mortality is quite low, right? Why cannot we use it in US? For what? I think the only reason is because HCQ is a big problem for many people to use their funding for their study to develop the new benefit drugs or vaccine in the future. They cannot let HCQ, this kind of cheap, safe drug, stay here, which will make the public not expect for the new studies, but they will just turn to this drug to use it to help themselves.
Dr. Yan, so I'm going to try and explain for the audience what we're talking about is if you are a professional researcher, seeking out funding for your research is, the mother's milk of your entire career. And the reality is nobody is sending out any research grants to study HCQ, but they are sending out research grants to study potential vaccines. Now, to put this in perspective for our audience, if we treated every single American with hydroxychloroquine and azithromycin, That would come out to a cost of roughly $6 billion at $20 a dosage. The United States government, according to the New York Times on July 31st, has already invested more than $8 billion in vaccine development. This is through various big pharma, private enterprise projects. So you begin to understand that there is a lot of money at stake here. And I see a lot of parallels actually here between the banning of DDT and the banning of hydroxychloroquine. And in both cases, it was for the profits of patented alternatives that weren't really even as effective. It's horrifying to me, Doctor.
Yes, so let me explain this to you. Let's say what they recommend now. Now they recommend steroid and Milesguo. These are the drugs for the severe cases patient. And so they leave the early stage of treatment and also prevention stage as empty. So that's why they can donate a lot of money. I mean, this is a very reasonable thing, right? If you don't have this can be cope with the COVID-19 at early stage and as prevention, you have to put a lot of money to the new industry for the vaccine, for new drugs, right? But if you admit HCQ can be the one to use applied in the early stage and the prevention, then those funding should turn to HCQ more than the others because first, it's already established as a safe drug, and also for mechanism is just according to the situation in COVID-19, like cytokine storm, like how the virus replication in humans' body, this HCQ can be applied to focus against this pathology. So if you turn to HCQ, money donate to HCQ study, then it will be cheaper and also it's more difficult for the pharmacy, for industry, for institute to apply the grant to do the new study. They have to put more solid evidence to persuade the funding committee to give them money. I can tell you based on my own story that back to this February, even in Hong Kong, the government gave the emergency grant. Oh yeah, it comes from Bill Gates Foundation too. So there is a huge amount of money come to us. Basically, you just write something, show you are research in vaccine, in virology. You can do something to try to find the vaccine. Then you get big amount of money. This will give you reputation. It can help you get promotion. They say basically the money are hating you. Do you understand this? So who will turn to HCQ in that case and give up the funding things? So that is a very sad truth.
Dr. Yan, I want to bring Steve in here. I know he's got a couple of questions for you just before we break. We've got about 3.5 minutes here, Steve.
Yeah, I never like to stop diatribes when a brilliant doctor, research is beating up Bill Gates and the Gates Foundation. But I want to go into another topic, Doctor, and we'd like to have you stay over for the next segment. The guys will probably run that interview. It's getting a little windy here, but look, they just announced yesterday WHO is negotiating with the CCP on terms of getting into these labs. They were actually in Beijing negotiating this. This is, 7 months, 8 months into this pandemic. WHO with Tedros, the running dog of the CCP, is over there heading up a negotiation, and they don't reach any kind of conclusion. In fact, he says, hey, we never may find a silver bullet.
孙立军杀人啊，包括孙立军所得到的古董。孙立军第一个被揭发出来的人是谁，知道吗？揭发他的，大家可能你们都没有想到，啊，是当时最关键的一个人物被抓起来的，大家都把他忽视掉了，是蒙古的一个家伙，啊，蒙古这家伙给的是一个正儿八经的一个金矿的股权，然后就是香港几大家族联合给洗写了信。孙立军在香港和林郑月娥啊，跟每个人谈的时候，通过他所有的手段啊，把澳大利亚他小情人在澳洲的这个公司拿走了好多人控股的股权。这小子要股权啊！孙立军身上你说掌握多少钱？大家知道，最起码现在2000亿美元已经是到手的现金，已经兑现完的。 这帮孙子哎，外面欺民贼骗咱们这个咱们战友们骗那么长时间，又在这带风向的啊！你这帮王八蛋不得好死啊！你们孙立军是个杀人魔王，抓了多少这个国内的就民主民运人士啊！香港这些孩子的死亡有多少都是孙立军直接干掉的啊！他就是刑事犯罪，然后在党内的政治斗争，多少所谓的他的政敌，知道南普陀会议的人叫他给办掉了，多少这帮国内的明星啊，因为影响了他跟明星睡觉，被抓进监狱去了，又有多少企业家是被他黑死的，给弄死在监狱里。我日你大爷八辈祖宗，你们这帮孙子哎！那个袁弓夷，你这帮王八蛋，你不得好死！我告诉你，你带风向什么孙立军，什么掌握武汉疫情，去你姥姥的吧！你大爷你！啊，孙立军是香港的杀人魔鬼，啊，是中国人民财富的最大掠夺者之一，是过去这8年到10年民主民运人士被残害的罪魁祸首之一，啊，是党内当年真正的想有可能支持我们这个灭共的力量的陷害者之一，啊，他是一个政治杀手，他是一个经济杀手、企业界杀手、民主民运杀手。啊，我跟他交过多少手，难道我不知道？
全球 CCP 病毒死亡人数超过70万，平均每15秒有1人死亡。据路透社统计，拉丁美洲成为全球 CCP 病毒死亡人数最高的地区，该地区已经有超过20万6千人死亡，约占全球总数的30%。黎巴嫩卫生部长说，大爆炸已经造成至少78人死亡，将还会有更多的人丧生。日本周二记录了1240例新增感染和6例新增死亡病例。美国卫生部长将访问台湾。澳大利亚的昆士兰州关闭边境，研究发现冠状病毒可能导致脱发症状。科索沃总理的病毒测试呈阳性。金价飙升，美国银行预测价格为$3000。